Hi, I'm Christy. I realized that I never introduce myself in these videos, so I'm going to start doing it. I'm Christy, and we just finished meeting for intonation practice on Wednesday, October 19th. And we kind of did more practice with some vowels, so we don't have very many sentences here. But that's good. It's all pronunciation and it all connects together. So always my pleasure. It could be my or it could be a. Always a pleasure. So, always my pleasure, or always a. In this case, the S sounds like a Z and it will connect to the A. Always a. Always a pleasure. So, always my pleasure, or always a pleasure. Its color looks surreal. Its color looks surreal. So don't take any pause. Keep one S moving into the next S. Looks surreal. And surreal. Real has two parts because you're going very high for the E and then sliding your tongue down and up for the L. Real. Look, the color, it's, its color looks surreal. Its color looks surreal. This is a lot of practice for the A sound. A snail takes a late train. And in this case, takes a will connect and late train. If you have two T's together, just hold the first one and release it for the second one. So late train, not late train. A snail takes a late train. A snail takes a late train. This one, would do, same thing, same consonant next to each other. So just make one, would do. This one, wouldn't he, changes. You don't have to say the T when you say wouldn't. And I'll put here, it can sound like wooden, but I don't want you to say the D. So think of it as would, make it a syllabic in, wouldn't. Go up for the D, would, and then just make the noise. And because I've seen it written as, I'll put it over here, wouldn't knee, like an actual spelling for the knee, I'm going to take it off and just put wooden, wooden knee, wooden knee. Where was I? And it's so typical, one S, typical, the L connects, and of him. You can get rid of the H pronoun, the H in the pronoun him, and then connect the V from of over. So instead of him, connect it, get rid of the H, of them, of them. So Lucas would do something like that, wouldn't he? It's so typical of him. Would do something like that. If you're saying that I know he would, then the tag question is no longer a question. What do you think? Do you think he would? Because you're sure I know he would. So it's not asking for real, it's asking because I know we both know this is true. Wouldn't he? Don't you? No, I can't think of another one. Wouldn't she? It's always, if it goes down, you really do know the answer. You're not really asking a question. Um, Lucas would do something like that, wouldn't he? It's so typical of him. So typical of him. The earth revolves around the sun. Revolves around. I didn't do much changing of the spelling over here. I just changed the S to a Z to remind you to connect za. Revolves around. And earth, forget about that A. And you don't even need to think, is it the vowel E? Because when you say earth, you're starting with your tongue in the R position. So and you're just making the sound of R. Like a pirate. And then your tongue goes forward like a TH. Earth. Earth. That's it. The earth revolves around the sun. The earth revolves around the sun. A small frog lost in a fog. So lost in. Don't let your tongue stop. Keep moving. Lost in. Lost in. These all have the ah vowel. A small frog lost in a fog. And then we didn't do these. It was getting too much kind of tongue twisters, but repetition of the same vowel sound. And I wanted it, I always want this to be more useful, things that you really do say or you hear other people say and you're not sure and you want to practice it. And this is one. If you find out somebody that you know knows somebody else knows, or they know the same person, you didn't expect it. Oh, it's a small world. It's a small world. It's a, it's a. It's a small world, and the word world is tricky. There's two parts: were, like where were you, and ol. So as you move from the R to the L, keep making sound world and hold it in the L position for a little longer than you think you need to so that the L can be heard, because you don't need to really pronounce the D and say world. You don't have to say duh. You can just hold it there. But if you don't hold it long enough, word, then you don't hear the L and it'll sound like word with WORD. World. And we did do some individual words. So let's start at the bottom. Word. All of these look like OR, but sound like ER. And this one will the will stretch a little longer because the final sound is a D. The voiced sound at the end makes the vowel a tiny bit longer. But actually, when you're going from the R to the D, that takes time. Word, word. When you have the number 11, work. I can make the R and the K at the same time. The back of my tongue is making a K. At the same time, the front is making an R. Work, work, work. So you can say that transition between the R and the K faster than you can between the R and the D. Work, work. And you don't need to say the K, work. So if I said, um, what was the ambiguous sentence I said before? I like the work. If I said, I like the work, or I like the word, you wouldn't hear much difference. So the first one, I like the work. Second one, I like the word. That's it. World is also sounds the same for this kind of spelling, like something that is spun. World. Train, late, takes, snail all have the a vowel, which is a diphthong. So moving from the e to the e, your tongue rises a, and that takes time. So if you go too fast, take instead of take, take. And surreal. It's almost three parts. Surreal. I put saw here. Surreal. Surreal. You can't really tell if you're making an R earlier or later. Surreal. Pleasure. Oh, the vowel is e, like head, but the tricky part sometimes is the zh. It doesn't look like it because it looks like an S. And when we have the word sure by itself, it sounds like sh, sure. But in this case, when it's in this word, now it's a zh, pleasure. So it's the same as sh, but with voicing. Zh. If you stop the airflow, if your tongue touches the top of your mouth while you're making that sound, it will change it to a J, pleasure. So if you hear j, pleasure, you stopped the airflow. So don't let your tongue completely touch the top of your mouth. You're in the L, pleasure, and it's going to go up for the zh, zh. If it touches, it'll be a J, j. If it doesn't touch, you have room for air to go over it and make a zh noise. And I thought of this because when I was really enjoying the rhythm of the earth revolves around the sun. The earth revolves around the sun. Da 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 da. It reminded me of this scene from the old TV show Family Ties, where Alex is helping Mallory study for a test, and when she finally gets an answer right, they get excited and they dance around. Self contained underwater breathing apparatus. Self contained underwater breathing apparatus. And so Because of that, I've always remembered what scuba stands for. So if you can feel a rhythm in a sentence, it's good. It means that you're stretching some parts and shortening some parts and going higher in pitch and lower. And that's what creates rhythm. If you don't have the stretching, it'll be all equal. The earth revolves around the sun. Even if I go higher, the earth revolves around the sun. Da, 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 da. It's not the same as the earth revolves around the sun. Da, 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 da. Putting movement with it really helps. So maybe some of you will dance around the house to the earth revolves around the sun. All right. Thanks. I won't be here next Wednesday, but the next intonation meetup will be November 2nd. Thanks. Have a good time.